Just on this story, Fionnan, again, you know, we have this report. It's been compiled by the Secretary-General of the Department of Health, Robert Watt. What's he telling Stephen Donnelly about what Stephen Donnelly agreed with him or otherwise?
Sure, it's fully vindicating the role of the Secretary-General, as it's been written by the Secretary-General himself. What he'll be telling Stephen Donnelly is the detail around the specifics of the internal human resource elements, i.e. that Tony Holohan was going on secondment from one element of the public service to another, and how that was being financed. So what would appear to be coming out now is that he was going to stay on the wage bill of the Department of Health for now. He would be seconded to the department, to Trinity College Dublin, but that research funding would become available that Trinity College Dublin could apply for, which they then could use to fund Tony Holohan's role. And that research funding would be indirectly coming from the Department of Health, because they have a unit called the Health Research Board, which funnels about 200 million into the third and fourth level sectors for health and public health research. So he'll also be setting out the timeline in terms of how things came about, the interaction that there was with the Department of Taoiseach and the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform. And the main thing people will be watching out for will be just those financial details. How exactly was that working? Because that doesn't seem to have been pinned down precisely, and it does seem that your normal levels of transparency that one would expect doesn't seem to have been followed in this particular case. However, I think it will knock on the head a couple of canards that have gone out there. The notion that a minister is supposed to be directly involved in an appointment, that has to be slightly corrected. I mean, you can't have a minister being solely responsible for appointments out of his own department, because then you end up in cronyism. There's actually legislation in place that says there is a specific reason why the Secretary-General, as an independent figure, is in charge of that. And the other issue is around secondment. There are guidelines on secondment, but they are guidelines. They are not hard and fast rules. There are, for example, officials working in the Department of Finance who transferred over from the National Treasury Management Agency over a decade ago, and they're still there.
The issue being, and very interesting, how immediately when this story emerged, though, we had, Michael McGrath on the programme last week saying this is really highly unusual, this isn't the way secondments usually work. Then we had the Taoiseach saying, he had no hand, act or part in any of this, clearly washing his hands of the whole affair. It's a real mess, isn't it, Dara Calleary?
Yeah, it's a mess, absolutely, and there's no sense in saying otherwise. Let's see what the Secretary-General's report says. I think that report should go to the Health Committee of the Oireachtas. Those involved should come to the Health Committee, explain their position, explain their reaction to whatever is laid out.
So when you say those involved, now who you're talking about?
Well, initially it's within the Department of Health, so it will be the Secretary-General, it will be Robert Watt. Let him come and explain his report, and anybody else he refers to in the report as being involved in the decision should be given the opportunity to explain their role. So we'll await to see the report, let the Health Committee discuss it and make findings on the basis of it. But Fionnan has put a context in terms of the actual appointment. I think the appointment was the announcement was too early. The funding should have been locked in before the announcement was made. I think it's incredibly unfortunate that we've lost somebody.
So the funding should have been locked in. So it should have been clarified that it was indeed public funding.
The position of the chair of the professorship in public health, to my view, should have been made available for colleges to bid for. It shouldn't have been given just to one college. So there's a couple of things. That position is a very good idea, but other colleges should have had an opportunity to host it. And then secondly, the funding should have been locked in before it was announced and before those details, which were crucial to the understanding of the position, were all locked in and put in place.
Right, OK. So, I mean, where does all of this... I mean, is something like that going, yes, we'll learn that, and in future we won't do something like this again? It seems like that these decisions are very much inbuilt into the system.
Yes, they are, and let the report set the context out of the decision. And, you know, there are different contexts around. Let it lay out that. Let the Health Committee pursue that report. I think the Taoiseach also made an important point at the weekend that there are also other issues around research, there's issues around academic credentials. They all have to be investigated and interrogated. And if the report doesn't lay out that, then the Health Committee can pursue that. For me, the best place to actually learn the lessons, but maybe do more than that, is to give the Health Committee the opportunity to pursue the report, to interrogate the report, so it's not just a document for the shelf.
How damaging is this for government, Dara?
No, I think it's not. The Minister isn't in charge of every single appointment in his department. It's the SecGen. The SecGen is the person, is the accounting officer of the department.
I'm just interested because, we had David Cullinane, health spokesperson for Sinn Féin, saying that senior civil servants are running rings around the Minister for Health. That's how it looks. I
don't accept that either. I do think, and we haven't actually looked. The Act that overlooks the management of senior civil servants is the Minister and Secretaries Act. It's an Act that goes back to predates the foundation of the state. It needs to be updated. There needs to be more accountability on the part of senior civil servants. And I've been saying that for a long time. And this needs to be finally drawn a line under in terms of accountability. Accountability to Oireachtas committees, accountability to government.
So you're saying they're running the show too much? No,
I don't accept that, but I do think there needs to be better ways of getting accountability, of getting answers, more effective ways, and that Act does need to be updated.